next issue that we're going to be talking about is fascinating to me because what it goes into is talking about its privacy rights, it's talking about health and public safety, and it's about the government deciding that they're going to do something without you consenting to it. They just want to be able to put these meters out there. Now, you may say, Paul, what's so bad about this? Isn't it going to, in the long run, give us, isn't more information, more data, isn't that always helpful? Well, not always. And in this case, I think there is a dangerous precedent being set for future connections to our house without our approval or without our consent, and these things just kind of happen. Let's talk to Patricia Burke about this. Patricia is part of an organization called HaltMAsmartMeters.org. Patricia, welcome to the program. How are you doing this morning?
Great, thanks.
So tell us first of all, what is HaltMAsmartMeters and what is your group all about?
Well, there's about 20 people now in Massachusetts working on this issue, and we actually have a bill in Massachusetts. It's 2926, which would allow a homeowner to reject having a radio transmitting utility meter on the side of their home. But we're also very much trying to draw attention to all of the health issues, cost, safety, security that have to do with the grid, with the smart grid idea.
Well, now, you've got a lot of people who hear this, and they're hearing this for the first time. They're hearing about these smart meters. Who's getting the smart meters?
Well, there's a pilot program in Massachusetts taking place in Worcester, but they've already been installed in a number of different communities. We have a list, or will have a list on our website. Hopkinton, Jamaica Plain, I believe Ipswich has deployed, Danvers. And then there are communities where I think some of the meters have gone in on new construction, and people may not know that they're there.
Okay. And these are radio transmitting smart meters that basically say, and that's what their name is, smart meters, that they're going to send out a radio signal attached to your house, and it's going to be able to transmit that data back to the utilities. People hearing that say, well, Patricia, sounds like a good thing. What's the problem?
Well, there's actually two transmitters. One is, it's a two-way transmitter. One is communication that goes between the home and the utility company. The other goes between your home and your appliances, your meter and the appliances inside your home. The utility company will be able to override your appliances to help balance the grid. And so chips are being placed in appliances that also transmit, and this puts a level of radiation into the home that's unprecedented. And it's already caused tremendous health issues in other states that have not been addressed.
So appliance manufacturers are getting on board with this, saying we're going to, because I don't want the government turning off my coffee maker when I'm making coffee in the morning. I mean, is that what we're talking about here? To that level, they're getting that small, that sort of granular?
In terms of the chips in the appliances, yes, because the appliance also tells the utility company when each appliance is turning off and on, bothering that level of data.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
that's kind of scary. Well, Patricia, that's kind of scary by itself. The fact that the government would be able to know, or I should say the utilities, and through them the government, the utilities being able to know who's, what you're using in your house, whether you've just turned on your dishwasher, your washing machine, or your coffee maker, your whatever, and it's using this much electricity. And if it's using too much, well, then we'll be able to power it down. I mean, that's just by them knowing that information is scary enough.
Plus, in California, it was already ruled that they could sell the data to third-party marketers, and this is extremely disturbing, and that is incredibly valuable information.
Oh, yeah. You see somebody using some appliance more than another appliance. Oh, maybe you need a new dishwasher. All of a sudden, you get a bunch of ads in your mailbox. You get a bunch of calls from appliance salesmen or whatever it is who will begin using that information. And I'm sure it gets much worse than that, but that's just off the top of my head. So imagine what these guys can do about it. So they're putting in place these smart meters. And how come people are just letting it happen? Now, I've seen stories across the country. Famously, a few mothers, I believe it was Tennessee, who got arrested over this?
Naperville, yeah.
Okay, Tennessee, right. And it just what a crazy story that was. Why did they get arrested again?
They were protesting having the smart meters installed and, not wanting to let the installers into their yards. So the installers called the police department, which was quite alarming because they were supporting the installers rather than the families. I should mention too, with the meters sending out time of use, we're going to tiered pricing. So we're going to be charged more to use the appliances during peak times, during prime time, until 11 o'clock at night. So they're trying to push us through behavior modification to use appliances in the evening.
Gotcha. Interesting. So this is, I think the biggest fear here is that right now with the meters, what happens is some guy comes to your house and he reads the meter and then he walks away. In this case, they're going to not only be collecting data remotely, I believe that the meter readers are still being employed. As far as I know, I don't think they're actually being fired. They're still being kept on to read the meters to supplement what the e-meters are sending them, but these smart meters are going to be transmitting data and then collecting data, and it's a lot more information than we want to be sharing about our homes and how we're using electricity versus what a guy reading the meter by itself could actually do, correct?
Yes, the privacy issue is most primary for many people, and it's been portrayed as a surveillance device.
Yeah, it's a scary, scary thing. Now, talk to me a little bit about the health issue here as well, because there are, and I don't know what sort of test, what sort of science there is on this. I've seen a lot written about the potential risks of these meters and sort of the transmitting devices they use.
I guess the broad categories are that in many people it seems to be interfering with the signaling between the brain, the nervous system, and the immune system. It's a pulse I know one was measured in California. It sent the information every 2,000th of a second, every 2 seconds, or 2,000th of a second. So when you add that up over the course of the day, it doesn't seem like a lot of cumulative radiation, but what our nervous system experiences is basically continuous torture. And, the categories, the health issues, I think it partly depends on the person's constitution and their strengths and weaknesses. But the list is quite long. There is a new report called 2,000 studies that have been done in the last couple of years, and there's a really sharp divide between the industry research and the independent research, and that's the best summary of independent research.
Interesting. So the independent research, unfortunately, is being drowned out by what you're hearing from some of these companies, and the bottom line with this is I think a lot of people say, okay, I want to make my electricity cheaper. I want to make sure that this costs me less. Maybe this will save me money. And they disregard the security concerns. They disregard the health concerns. So even if you push that to the side, I'm not saying you should, but even if you push that to the side, there's still the cost issue. Is this going to save people money?
Right, and it's not going to save people money. As a matter of fact, in California and in Canada, they've got information that people's bills go up. It's not a sustainable system. The meters themselves are not going to last very long. It's an electronic device that's outside to the elements. If we have a surge, even from the sun, much less from a cyber attack, these meters will not be able to withstand that kind of stress. It's just a terrible idea. The whole paradigm, it was really based on some people just don't even know what's going on because a lot of the information hasn't been shared. But it's also kind of a psychological operation. If the utility says, it's like a cell phone and everyone is using cell phones, and they don't realize that it's like having someone make a cell phone call 24 hours a day every 2 seconds. It could be next to your head if the meter is outside your bedroom wall. There's no standards for that, where it's installed, and they're not shielded.
Why do you think, Patricia, this has kind of been swept under the rug? I mean, there's a lot of people, I'll bring up this issue to some of my friends or just people in Worcester or whoever I'm talking to. I'll bring up this issue. I've read about it, and I didn't think anything of it until I started learning and teaching myself about it. Why are people not paying attention to it?
I think it's actually almost a betrayal trauma because we put so much trust and faith in the government and in the science, and you have to go back and realize that the emerging science is just being ignored, and this deployment is still continuing is really difficult. And then I think people will have to go back and look at their technology use. But what Americans don't know is the standards in the United States for this radiation are hundreds of times higher than other countries. We've taken a very aggressive stance to support economic development, and rather than health and the other priorities in the environment. And other countries have been much cleaner in their sustainability initiatives. We're using it to justify economic, to create windfall profits in the investment market, and it's a really shaky proposition. And eventually, it is going to implode. It's just a matter of how far we go. But I think it is really a people's revolution, and the most important security is to get informed, and start researching smart meter fires, smart meter protests, smart meter costs. Once people start looking, the data starts to just get overwhelming.
Yep.
But you have to really be clear about whose work you're reading. And, if we hold the utility companies and Massachusetts accountable to the highest level of truth and integrity, the answer is very clear that this should be halted.
That's the thing. And, Patricia, and I got to cut you loose here, unfortunately, but, it's one of those things. I thought, I started hearing about the smart meter. I said, this is one of those tinfoil hat, crazy whatever, this is not a big deal. Then I started doing research. I started reading about it and said, oh my gosh, this is serious. This is not something I want next to my family, on my house, monitoring the stuff that I'm using, then selling it to third-party providers, and of course the potential health benefits and all the nonsense that comes with it. Patricia, I got to let you go, but thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. HaltMAsmartMeters.org is the website if you'd like to check it out and learn a little bit more and learn from both sides. Hear both sides of the conversation. Brief timeout. We'll be back.